Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts, and in today's video we're going to be making this box which is based around my own needlework box. The box opens hinged like so, and the handle divides the box into two sections. It's quite an easy box to put together, and it's also easy to adjust the size to suit your needs. Without further ado, let's get started. The proportions I'm using for the box, if you want to change up your sizes, are my box is going to be 8 inches wide, 4 inches deep and 4 inches high. The height and the depth are half the width. So if you want to adjust the sizes at all, then it's quite easy to do that. So for the front and back panels of the box, I've got two pieces which are 9 inches by 4.5. So that gives me an 8-inch width with half an inch at either end and a half an inch at the bottom. So I'm going to score along that 9-inch side at half, 8.5, rotate and score at 4. I'm going to do that on both pieces. For the end side panels, I've got two pieces which are 4.5 by 4. I'm going to score along the 4.5-inch side at 4, and that's creating my glue tab for my base. And for the base of the box, I've got one piece which is 8 inches by 4 inches. I'm going to start by folding and burnishing all of the score lines. On the two longer side panels, just create my glue tabs by cutting away the bottom intersecting corners. Then just cut a wedge from each of the ends to create the glue tab. Take the two small side panels and just cut a wedge from the end 1/2-inch tabs. Decide whether you want to add your glue tabs to the underside or on top of your base. It's entirely your preference. I'm going to have this as the bottom, and I'm going to add my glue tabs onto the top like so. I'm going to start by joining my sections together. So I should take a long section, add glue, line up my bottom score lines, and just make sure that sits parallel. I tend to use, not always, but I tend to use a method of construction where I add my side panels together and then add them to my base. If you find it easier to add your side panels to your base and then join them up together around your base, that's fine. There's no right way or wrong way, so do what works for you. So now I'm going to take my base, add glue to my first glue tab, line that up squarely, so. I've chosen this cardstock. It's from an old paper pad from the works. I really liked the sort of wood, the painted wood effect that it had. And obviously you can see that it's double-sided. I am going to be adding some DSP onto the inside, which it will add some strength to the box. Because the inside or the other side of this paper is quite busy, the hinges on the inside, you can see they don't show that much, so you could, if you wanted, get away with not adding any decorative paper. So I'm just making sure everything's lined up squarely, which it is, and that is the base of our box. For the handles, you'll need two pieces which are 5 by 6.5. Along the 5-inch side, score at 1/2 and 4.5, and along the 6.5-inch side, score at 1/2. Along the 6.5 side, use your score tool or a pencil and just make a mark at the top at 4.5, like so. And then at 5 inches, make a pencil mark at the score line, like so. So I've got a pencil mark here and a pencil mark here. Rotate, and at the other end, make a pencil mark along the top edge of the card at 2 inches and on the score line at 1.5 inches. So your pencil lines will be opposite one another. Rotate the piece back and along the 5-inch side, make a pencil mark at the top at 1 inch and at 4 inches. Take your ruler, line your ruler up with the 1/2 inch mark down the left hand side and make a pencil mark at 1.25 and 3 3/4. Move your ruler down to 1.5 inches and again make a pencil mark at 1.25 and 3 3/4. Repeat that on your second piece. We're now going to cut our hand holes in the handle. This is the same sort of process as that if you've watched the toolbox video. This is the same sort of process. I'm lining my ruler up with the pencil marks and then cutting between the pencil marks. Now you can obviously cut this square independently, alternatively lay this one on top of this one, back to back, and trace around the inside. Make sure your pieces of card are level. Trace around the inside of this rectangle and then use that as your guideline to cut the second rectangle. So I'm going to line my pieces of card up, take my pencil and cut my second rectangle. Once you've cut your holes in your handles, fold and burnish the tabs. Take your scissors, and I've got my 1/2 inch tab on the left, cut up the 2 inch pencil mark, the pencil mark which is 2 inches from the top, up to the 1/2 inch score line, like so. So I've made a cut here. And now we want to cut away that tab. So we're cutting away the top portion of the tab, like so, and just cut a wedge into the top. Do the same on the other side. So I'm cutting up the score line to the 1/2 inch glue tab, rotating and removing that score line and cutting a wedge. Remove the bottom corners and cut a wedge to create your glue tabs. So our piece looks like this. Do that on both pieces. So we now want to create the top shape of our handles. We're going to glue these two pieces together. You can either glue the two pieces together and then we're going to cut from the top of the pencil mark here down to the pencil mark here to create a diagonal. So you can either cut your diagonals now and then glue the two pieces together, or glue the two pieces together and then cut your diagonals. So that's your preference. I'm going to glue mine together and then cut my diagonals once that's dry. If you're going to do it that way, add your glue everywhere apart from the glue tabs at the side and the glue tab at the bottom. I am going to add my glue all the way around, even though the top corners are going to be cut away. I'm going to add these on top of each other lining up the top edges, and I can see that I'm going to have to go round with my craft knife and tidy up my handle hole. You can see they don't quite match up. So make sure your piece is aligned. Just going to fold my glue tabs out so there's no chance of them sticking. And then once that's all adhered, I can do my tidying up where I need to. It's funny how you think that you've cut two pieces of card exactly the same. I've burnished them exactly the same, and they're not quite lined up. So I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to set that aside to dry for a moment. My handle's dry and I have gone round and tidied up this piece here. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut between the pencil mark on the right hand side diagonally up to the pencil mark on the top and cut away that corner. Repeat on the other side. So that's our handle shape. We're now going to add glue to the side and the bottom glue tabs, and we're going to sit our handle in the middle like so. So before I do anything, I'm going to my ruler like so, and then just make a pencil mark along the top at 4 inches. Rotate and do the same at the other side. And then I will sit my handle in, and I just want to make sure that none of the glue tabs are going to be visible from the side of the box. And I can just see, I'm just going to trim away, change the angle slightly here, and just adjust that so that that's not visible. I'm going to use my construction glue, add glue on all of the glue tabs, and I'm going to lay my box down because I think it's going to be easier. I'm lifting this side up. I can see my pencil mark on that side. Twist the box around, I can see my pencil marks on that side, and then I'm just going to go in and push that down. Make sure that's all, so that sits nicely, not quite squarely. I think my tabs make it look as if it's not aligned, but it is actually aligned. I lay my box on the mat and use my grid lines on the mat and just check. So my handle's now in. I'm just going to check if I butt my ruler up against the handle, I've got 4 inches that side and 4 inches that side. So that's in the middle. I'm now going to add my decorative paper to the inside of the box, and I'm going to do that before I create the lid element, because then I can make sure that the lid fits, including the addition of the decorative paper. We're now going to create the lid of the box. Before I add the lid in, I've added DSP to the inside section here, here, here and here. My lid, which I've already taken out, hence this mark here, is going to hinge from this side. Because I want to make sure that the lid fits in properly, I've added the decorative paper to these inside portions first. For the lid, you'll need 2 pieces which are 4.5 by 5. Along the 4.5 inch side, score at 4, and along the 5 inch side, score at half and 4.5. Do that on both pieces. Fold and burnish along the score lines. Take your scissors, remove the bottom left and right hand corners, like so. And at the moment, I'm going to leave the top edges square. Do that on both. Now you will need some means with which to get the box open. You might decide to add a little half circle coming from behind up along this edge here to pull. You might decide to add some ribbon. I'm going to add a finger notch. The reason I've had to remove my lids is because my finger notches didn't line up either side of the handle and it looked very odd. So I'm going to place my pieces on top of each other, make sure my score lines are lined up, make sure the top edge is lined up, and I'm concentrating on the score lines rather than the outer tabs. I don't mind if it's a millimetre out, but it was more than a millimetre out and it looked horrendous. In fact, I'm going to tuck my tabs in at the side. That might be easier. Tuck these tabs in, line my piece up, line the top edge up, and then I'm going to cut through both pieces at the same time. Add glue to my hinge. Now, because the lid is split into two portions the same size, you could have your hinge on any edge. But I'm going to have my lid so it is hinged at the side and opens from the middle. I'm just going to push that in and make sure that that fits properly. Line up the top of my hinge with the outside of the box. Just fold the side flaps in and make sure that that fits in, which it does. Just going to open that gently, tip my box up and burnish the glue tab. So that's going to sit down like so. So I'm just going to double check now that I've burnished. And I'm just going to cut the slightest piece off of this end of the tabs, just to help that go in. Sit that back inside like so. That's good, that sits nicely. I'm going to do the same at this end, and I'm hoping that my notches are going to line up. Sit this in. Oh, that's much better. Okay, so they now sit in nicely. So I'm just going to add my last two pieces of decorative paper to the inside. Because of the paper I've chosen, I'm not adding anything to the outside. So here's the finished project. You can see the lid opens like so. I've added all my additional layers to the inside to cover up the hinges, and it's just a really nice size gift box, all storage box. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.